I now turn to my next villain, which is Jimmy Carter. This is, by the way, the president I first encountered when I came to America in 1978 as an exchange student. It was well, I didn't know it to be the end, but it was close to the end of the Carter era. Now, I say villain because, and it may strike some people as odd, because of course Carter was an obvious buffoon. He was a nincompoop. I've sometimes joked that if you had an award for presidential nincompoopery, well, Carter would be first in line. Maybe there's some competition now from Biden. But when you think about Carter and his destructive legacy, somehow nincompoopry does not really do him justice. Here is a guy who is almost at the root of a lot of the chaos that we are dealing with in the world today. Let me just name 3 countries: Afghanistan, Iran, Venezuela. So in Afghanistan, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. Why? Because they thought Carter was weak. They thought he would do nothing. And of course, he did nothing. He himself said, "I'm really surprised they did this." Nincompoop. And that started ultimately a series of events in Afghanistan that have reverberated right to the present. Iran. Before Iran, the radical Muslims were around. A Muslim Brotherhood was started, I believe, in the 1920s in Egypt. So there were radical Muslim movements, but the radical Muslims did not have control of a major state. In fact, this whole notion of worldwide jihad, of martyrdom, of go blow yourself up in the name of Islam, that America's the great Satan, all of this was brought onto the international stage by Khomeini. And the Iranian Revolution was a real revolution. Think about it. This was a revolution in 1979. Here we are in 2021. And the Iranian Revolution continues. It's lasted. In fact, it hasn't even lost its original kind of fervor. It's still pushing with this kind of revolutionary thrust around the world. We're still dealing with it. And now we're facing the prospect of a nuclear-tipped Iran. So all of this could have been avoided if it wasn't. All of this could have been avoided if Carter didn't give us this. If he wasn't, in a sense, the architect of this global foreign policy disaster. And then Venezuela. Carter went down to Venezuela in 2004. This was a thoroughly corrupt election being run by Hugo Chavez to consolidate his hold on Venezuela, a hold that he was hoping to become permanent, as he was able to make it semi-permanent. And now, of course, his successor, Nicolas Maduro. Rigging elections has now become sort of a course of business, normal life in Venezuela. Liberty is extinguished in that sense in that country. And who certified it? Who said it was okay? Who actually said that the Venezuelans were running sort of one of the most secure elections ever run? Kind of sound familiar. We hear this now. America just had one of the most secure elections ever had. And Carter and his goons from the Carter Center went down to Venezuela, by the way, along with a group of goons associated with George Soros and his open society. And their goal was to go down there and in a sense, keep Chavez in power. Now, Carter's been down to Venezuela multiple times, and his influence there has been thoroughly invidious. So sometimes when I say to Debbie, Carter was a buffoon, she goes, I can't see him just in that light because there's a certain innocence to buffoonery. A buffoon is a guy who sort of slips on a banana peel and falls on his face. But Carter, there's a wickedness. It is a buffoonery laced with malice. This is a very bad guy. Let me talk a little bit about Iran, because what happened in Iran was the Shah of Iran was an ally of America. And Carter, prodded by the left hated the Shah. They kept saying he's a despot. He has Savak, the secret police. You got to get rid of him. So the intellectual framework for Carter's betrayal of the Shah was supplied by the left. Now, of course, the mullahs were agitating in Iran, but the Shah could have crushed them. What happened is that as the mullahs got stronger, the Shah turned to his ally, America, for help. And that's the point where Carter said no. Carter said, I'm not going to help you. You're on your own. The Shah's position then became increasingly desperate. And he turned in desperation, basically, save me, to the United States. And his pleas fell on deaf ears. There was a great kind of yawn of indifference by the Carter people. And the bottom line of it is the Shah collapsed. And who came in? Khomeini. So if you thought the Shah was bad, Khomeini was even worse. In 1 year, the Khomeini revolution killed more people than the Shah had executed during his whole reign of a quarter of a century. And even though many progressives were imprisoned, executed, tortured, very interestingly, the left in this country went dead silent. They never complained about it. It's kind of like when ISIS or Islamic Jihad throws a gay off a building. The left here doesn't say anything because they're sort of like, well, we're kind of allied with those people. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. We're just going to go silent on that one. Why? Because after all, it's gays over there. It's not really gays over here. So the bottom line of it is we begin to see here, even in the case of Khomeini, how the left behaves even when these tyrannical regimes on the left turn against the left itself. Now, by aiding in the Shah's ouster and with Khomeini's consolidation of power, the left and Carter collaborated in giving radical Islam its greatest victory in the modern era, arguably the greatest victory since Muhammad. Thanks in part to Jimmy Carter and the left, the Islamic radicals got what they have been seeking for a long time, and they're now trying to expand. They're trying to expand in America with forces like Ilhan Omar, with the emergence of radical Islam in this country. Once again, we see that at the beginning, at the gateway, at the inauguration of all of this trouble, all of this heartache, all of this danger supplied by nuclear-tipped weapons, stands one grinning peanut farmer, the stupid but also vicious Jimmy Carter.